In this video, I'm going to be discussing a bit about some topics I lightly addressed in my book, A Philosophy of Healthy Skepticism, but also some topics that I haven't discussed in there, particularly in regards to criticism and skepticism regarding psychotherapy and psychiatric treatment. And what I have discussed is predominantly our capacity as individuals to take care of our own well-being and psychological and physical health in terms of the role of preventing various diseases, illnesses, and dysfunctions, as well as treating them, and ultimately doing what matters most, living a positive, productive life, and a life that we want to live, and leading more authentic lives. And we can do that independently without the support from institutions or various individuals who actually might make our lives worse in some cases. And I want to address some of these issues regarding often this push towards more extreme forms of treatment and issues that we actually see throughout not just the medical system, but throughout various systems and that negatively impact individuals' lives on a daily basis, which puts strain through things like over-medicating individuals who don't need medicine and resorting often to medication over other treatments such as dietary changes or just simply eating well and getting enough physical activity, and also even just doing what matters to you and finding interests and hobbies to occupy your time that are meaningful. And also disengaging from negative family members or peer groups, which were often pushed by psychiatrists and psychotherapists to talk to and discuss and to be with. We're often told that socializing is good, and this has become a very common for discussions regarding depression, and in some cases that's true, but in other cases, especially if you're a little bit more introverted and you're not necessarily the socially shy introvert, but you're the introvert who benefits from solitude, you might have a lot of people around you all the time due to your life circumstances, and you might need to disengage and get that solitude. And it's about being able to find that balance that matters and is meaningful, and protecting things like your privacy and your autonomy, and doing a little bit of that self-discovery that's really going to support your well-being more than it is going and sitting down and talking about something that you feel like you've talked it through, you've said everything there is to it, and you don't even know why you're there anymore. And it's very important to understand certain aspects of receiving treatment from psychologists or psychiatrists that can actually negatively impact our well-being. In some cases, there's what's been termed as iatrogenesis, which is when we get prescribed a label or a particular type of disease or illness, a dysfunction, and we don't necessarily have those symptoms or that dysfunction, or we're not necessarily experiencing it, but we don't know what they're talking about. They're supposed to be the experts, and we come to believe through that labeling and through also the treatment itself, through discussions, through what's prescribed in terms of medication and various therapies, that we end up developing these symptoms and dysfunctions as a result of that. And that often occurs through a violation of personal autonomy and our own values and interests that are being neglected for what an expert has deemed to be sufficient treatment. And this actually is counterproductive, not just to treating individuals and preventing disease, but also the whole system in general. It ends up driving costs for the medical system, increasing labor and burnout and various types of stress, which is completely unnecessary. And spreading awareness of that is very important, especially if we can start focusing more on promoting individual treatments and not necessarily resorting to going to a doctor or a medical expert or psychologist every time, or even a counselor every time we have an issue, and to stop using it as a first go-to method or strategy, and to look inside and to start focused on and see what works for you before you start taking somebody else's advice. And by no means am I discouraging you to not go to talk therapy, because there's certain individuals who benefit more from that, and there's other individuals, such as myself personally, I know, that benefit more from solitude and to stick to what they know is tried and true. I've went to a therapist and I found it completely useless, and in some cases even spoken to a psychiatrist and found it completely counterproductive, and actually drove up my experiences of negative perceptions, motivations, emotions, feelings, the whole gambit, and made me a little bit less trustful towards doctors and psychiatrists in particular, and particularly also some of my relatives too. I lost a lot of respect and trust for them because of those negative encounters. And I suspect that other people are in the same boat, but that's not to say that other people don't benefit and that other people shouldn't go see psychiatrists or psychologists, because oftentimes if you feel like you need it, and also too, if this is off-putting for you and you're feeling a little bit anxious because I'm saying this, like, who would say that kind of thing? Well, you might be the type of person who actually does need to often talk to people when you're dealing with an issue. And that's not necessarily because, I'm special or you're special in any way, and that there's some defect within myself or yourself. It's that we're individuals and we all have different things that we resonate with and which treat our various issues, and which will treat various situated issues, in particular conditions that pertain to the present moment, and could be chronic. So it's very important to contextualize things and put things within a situated framework and to understand that and to dial that back. But the main point I want to get across here is that there's a lot of things that we can do on a daily basis just through taking care of ourselves and increasing our wellness, such as physical activity, mindfulness, eating well, writing, working through our problems, philosophizing, going for a walk, talking to friends that we trust or family members that we trust, or even just typing something into a chat bot, having a conversation on there. And if you find that amusing and absorbing, and it supports your well-being, well, that's great. Just try not to do it for too long, because that can definitely take away from the experience. But if you can do it within a proportioned segment, then by all means do it. And if you get a kick out of it and supports your well-being, hey, that's what matters. And ultimately, when we start to do that more and more, we don't just improve our own lives, we improve the lives around us in ways that we may not even be conscious of, such as we reduce strain off various systems, the legal system, the medical system, various institutions, even our jobs or other commitments in life, family members and friends. And oftentimes when we do the opposite and we abuse these systems, we can often exacerbate problems, not just for ourselves but for others, and that can increase our well-being and conflict in various ways, and strain various relationships. So that's all I wanted to say for this video, and I'll probably be again discussing more on these topics later, and I'll probably include a little bit more on this in the official publication of my book, A Philosophy of Healthy Skepticism, on that. So that's all for now. Bye.